I was gonna do this in my bed, but oh shit, yeah, I scratched the shit out of the lens. Yeah, it kept falling over. I have a bad tripod. So we're gonna move this to the office. Okay. We are in my office, got books and candles and shit, but we also have my shelftember TBR. I'm teaming up with Shelby on Instagram, Whimsy Reads with Shelby, to host a bingo challenge and a whole bunch of buddy reads of books that are on our TBR. The only rule is that by the time you read the book, it has to be published. So August arcs, some early September arcs are still eligible, but I know I've got a whole bunch of audiobooks on my phone that I'm gonna be trying to get through, but we are going to just start. I am filming this on September 2nd, so I actually have already read a book. And this is Hang the Moon. I forget what the name of the series is, but it's all about sort of like zodiac astrology stuff. And this is the second in the series. So the first one is Written in the Stars, then it's Hang the Moon, and then it's Count Your Lucky Stars. So I read Count Your Lucky Stars first because that's who I am as a person. But this is very kind of insta love. She goes back to Seattle to visit her best friend and falls in love with her best friend's brother. But I've already read it. It's a very cute romance, has a little bit of steam in it. This was given to me by Jocelyn Robinson, author, on Instagram, which I'm very thankful for. She got me this for my birthday. Don't forget to drink your water, y'all. So, it's a lot of rom-coms, I'm realizing, which, so what? Like, I'm a huge fan of rom-coms anyways. But, let's see, this next one is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I recently read The Do-Over by her, which comes out in November, and it reads like a Taylor Swift song in the best way possible, right? Where you just love it, and you can't really explain why you like it, but it's in your head. Like, it's just stuck there like an earworm, and I loved it so much. So, in classic M fashion, I started with her most recent, and now I'm going back to her first book. Well, it might not be her first, actually, but I don't know. It's where I'm going. Oh, yeah, and there's all of these cute little doodles from, like, romance movies. This is Say Anything. I don't know what the snow one is. I think that's The Notebook. That's Dirty Dancing, for sure. And so I think it's probably gonna have a ton of like romance movie references in them. I know that for Hang the Moon, they had a ton of the sort of romance rom-coms that were set in Seattle references, so I loved that. Let's see, let's mix it up a little bit. Next is Eclipse the Moon by Jessie Mahalik. So I read her first one in this series, which is Hunt the Stars. So my friend Julie sent me an arc that she had gotten after she was done with it, and then I didn't read it for a year. But this one just came out, and so, ooh, oh, that's interesting. So the first one focused on the captain, Tavi. This one focuses more on like the engineer, Key. And honestly, Key is like Kaylee from Firefly. And so she's just delightful. And I think that there was some very not subtle hints of a romance budding in the first book, and so this will be really, really excited to read about. It's definitely enemies to lovers. They have an alien race that is very stoic, but it gets steamy, my friends. They get steamy. Okay, next is Love Lists and Fancy Ships by Sarah Grunder Ruiz, aka one of my favorite people in the universe, honestly. This book came out last year, as far as I know. I've heard amazing things about it. I read Luck and Last Resorts first because I had managed to get an arc of that and I was just too late for this one. And these are definitely, they can lean a little more contemporary in terms of like the themes that they address. So this has a lot of grief and sort of, I mean, here, bucket list items. But this, I think this is more sort of a story about Joe than it is a like romance just for the sake of romance, which I like. That is sort of, I prefer romances that have a plot and just sort of happen to have some sex in them. But I'm really excited to read this one. I also want to read her next one, which is called Last Call at the Local, which comes out in 2023. So this is another series. So this is From Bad to Cursed by Lana Harper. And so the first one is Payback's a Witch, and it kind of takes place in, I think, a small town, probably in New England. But the first book focuses on sort of like a witchy competition, and this one focuses a little bit more on like a festival, and again, it's an enemies to lovers, but I really love sort of the atmosphere of her book. Where's this freaking set? Thistle Grove. Thistle Grove is just, it feels like Stars Hollow but witchy, which for fall is perfection. Another book that I'm currently reading is Seasonal Fears by Shannon McGuire, which is the second which is the second book in her, I think it's alchemical, honestly, I don't know the name. I can't remember the name of this series, but it's a companion novel to Middle Game. And this feels very fae focused because where I'm at, I'm hearing a lot of competitions to become the kings or queens of the winter and summer, which are essentially, they feel like fae courts. But it is all very vague right now. Like I have no idea what is happening. I'm about 50 pages or so into this. I've been putting this off since May, so I'm finally reading it. Next, I literally screamed when I got this in the mail. It is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. It is a sequel to The Spanish Love Deception. Although in my opinion, you don't have to read The Spanish Love Deception before you read this one. And basically it focuses on Rosie from the first book. And it's a forced proximity when Lucas, who I think is, who is Lena's cousin, they move in together. And in any romance, you know what's gonna happen. They're gonna bone. And it's like, I really like how she writes relationships and humor. I wasn't the biggest fan of The Spanish Love Deception just because I felt like Aaron, I think that's his name, was a little bit toxic masculinity-y. But I do like her, and so I think I'm still gonna give it a shot. Another one I've been dying to read is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, which is a sapphic romance. And it's like small town vibes. We have a single mother in this case. And it is just so exciting to actually see sort of this representation. There's a sequel coming out for her stepsister, Astrid, which I'm also excited to read, but I should probably read this one first just because it's already out and I have it. And finally, in terms of my physical TBR, it's The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, which I didn't realize was based on the NXIVM cult and this batshit story of like a girl's father who moved into her dorm room and essentially created a cult by convincing them that they had been poisoning him without their knowledge. It's insane. I want to go into this one pretty blind. I don't want to know what happened or what's going to happen, but just based on it, I love a cult thriller. I love the cover, and I loved her first book. I still have a couple of her romances that I want to get into, but just maybe this month, maybe not. I'm setting up a pretty large TBR. So this is 9 physical books. Then, oh shit, I left one downstairs. Okay, well, okay. Then we're also for book club, we're gonna rereading Howl's Moving Castle, which I'm very excited for. I've never read it. I've seen the movie, I think we own the movie, but I haven't watched it in a long time, so it's gonna be really exciting to just sort of get into that world. I know that there's multiples, like, books in this series, so I'm wondering, like, were they all turned into movies? Was it all, like, did they take all 3 books and put them into Howl's Moving Castle? I don't know. I'm also currently listening to They're There, which is, it feels like an anthology because it's like 12 people's stories, but it's all written by the same person. So this book follows 12 people as they head towards the Big Oakland powwow and just sort of their stories of what it means to exist as a Native American in these modern times. And it is, it's a lot. Which, you know, but it's just really beautiful in its own right, and I'm glad that I'm listening to it. So downstairs, I'm too lazy to go down and get it, if I'm being honest. I have Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison, which is a romance set in the small town. This is the month of small town romances. Maybe small town romances are just like becoming a thing again. But it's set in Inglewild, I think, and we're following Layla and Caleb, where Layla is a baker and Caleb is a cop, and Caleb has had a crush on her for literal years. And we finally get to sort of see that blossom into something. I have not read Love Light Farms yet. I'm waiting. And what I'm waiting for is for the new cover, because it matches the other 2 covers in the series, and for it to be a little closer to Christmas, because that one takes place on like a Christmas tree farm. I feel like that's just, you know, the perfect vibes. And the last book that I'm reading this month is The Art of Prophecy, and it is described as a fantasy ode to martial arts and magic, which I loved. I loved Jade City and sort of how they incorporated martial arts and with their magic system of jade. And it seems like, you know, there's been a child who's been prophesized to change the world, but they're not there yet, you know? And so we're gonna sort of get to watch the montage of him getting whipped into shape and sort of see what this means for the kingdom as a whole. And that's it. Those are the 13 books that I am going to be reading in September, or at least I hope. One of them's already done, so we're there. So let me know down below what you're reading in September. If you want to participate in Shelftember, check out the bingo over on my Instagram page. We are going to be giving away a book off of a person's wish list to them. And happy reading!